Hello, my name is Damon Friedman, co-founder and president of SOF Missions. As a 20-year veteran within Special Operations, I've gone through many challenges due to my military service and time in combat. We felt called to start SOF Missions to serve our fellow brothers and sisters in arms, focusing on suicide prevention and resiliency. Our mission at SOF Missions is to empower warriors to find purpose and be resilient. Since 2011, when we started the organization, almost 3 million men and women have deployed to Iraq and Afghanistan. Unfortunately, the scars of war take a toll on their psychological, physical, social, and spiritual health. Many veterans feel a sense of hopelessness and a loss of purpose when they return to civilian life. They feel isolated and alone, unable to reconnect. And in the greatest of tragedies, over 20 veterans lose all hope and take their own lives. Our goal at SOF Missions is to provide veterans the tools and resources so that they don't become a statistic. We offer a unique approach to combating veteran suicide through a whole health, intradisciplinary model. The Be Resilient program is a 4-pillar methodology that addresses the areas of psychological, physical, social, and spiritual wellness. We provide care through 3 delivery methods: medical clinics, retreats, and educational training. Since we started back in 2011, we have been able to reach veterans in all 50 states and have served over 3,000 veterans through the Be Resilient program. Being resilient is a multifaceted and complex issue. We know that to find a lasting solution, we have to address the whole warrior. Many challenges cannot be solved by providing the treatments and modalities of just one component, but by tackling them all. Now, we've expanded our services to include law enforcement and first responders. Together, we can make a lasting impact in the lives of warriors across the nation. To learn more, visit our website at sofmissions.org.
Proceed to your post assignment. All units proceed to your post assignment.
All right. Welcome back.
Misfit Nation. The Misfit Nation Show.
We are a show founded by a veteran and hosted by 2 veterans and a military spouse. Our mission is to get people to tell their stories to the world. If you're an author, share your tips with the Misfit Nation. If you're a musician or an actor, our audience needs to know how they too can get into the business. Coaches, we love our coaches. Come on and share your tips with the Misfit Nation to help them become better versions of themselves. If you are a corporate leader or an entrepreneur, come on and show how you did it and how hard you have fought for success. If you are a veteran, first responder, or Gold Star family, we would love to have you come on and share your story with the Misfit Nation. We always have time for you. If you're feeling down, alone, or starting to see the darkness, Stop. Think about those who are around you. You are not alone. You will be missed. If you feel like your problems will be a burden to those in your inner circle or feel embarrassed, dial 988. If you are a veteran, take option 1. We need you to keep pushing forward. Don't make a permanent solution to a temporary problem. If you are a new listener, welcome to the Misfit Nation Show. Be sure to subscribe to our show on your favorite podcast app. Also on our YouTube channel at @the_Misfit Nation. Subscribe and click the bell to keep you up to date on our latest episodes and all of our news. You can also find us on Heroes Media Group and About Face Radio. Now, let's get to the show!
All right. Welcome back to the Misfit Nation Show, your Sunday after dinner edition. I know you have other places you could be, but thankfully you've come here to hang out with us and check out our great guest tonight. Not a whole lot of bad news tonight, so this should be a very upbeat show. Hopefully everyone had a great weekend so far. Got to spend time with their families, get them honey-do list knocked out. And now it's time to either watch the All-Star race with NASCAR or come hang out with us. And hopefully you're turning the switch over to hang out with us. So tonight we have a U.S. Army veteran and a board member of Living Free Together. He's also works at the same firm as me, so that makes him even better. So Army works with me, and he works for a veteran organization, an organization that helps veterans and families in the greater Charlottesville area, Living Free Together. So without further ado, let's bring in Mr. Derek Funk. Welcome, Derek.
Thanks, Rich. Man, I love the intro to your show. It really gets you pumped up.
All right, I was waiting to see you start dancing.
Right. You don't want to see me dance, that's for sure.
Oh, good. Me either. I just do this little sway back and forth now as the age gets you.
Yeah.
Derek, I just gave basically a 2-sentence overview of who you are and what you do. If you don't mind, tell the Misfit Nation a little bit more about you, about your military career, and how we got to this point.
Yeah, certainly. And I loved what you started with, the Living Free Together, because such a great organization. And I'd been thinking about this programming we've been doing for the last couple months. My wife and I had been leading a book club as part of Living Free Together with a group of other veterans. And we were doing the book called Design Your Life by Bill Burnett and Dale Evans. And they take design thinking a step forward and basically help you create a life that is meaningful and fulfilling. And I really felt like that really kind of leads into my story, where the thing that we found while leading this book club was that the majority of us in this group, we were joined the military, and it was unintentional for most of us. Like, it wasn't something that we sought out to do. And I grew up, in a non-military family. My grandpa served in World War II, had an uncle that was in Vietnam. So I'd heard their stories, but it didn't really seem like it was something for me. And like I tell a lot of people, I do things backwards. Went to college for 4 years and then joined the Army, And first duty assignment was Germany. And I mean, where a better place to start, and went to Kosovo. It was nice time over there. Really good training. My wife and I, we got married while I was over in Germany. But it really, that just started us down a track that we were unprepared for. And so we left Germany, and this was right after 9/11, and went to Fort Riley, Kansas. And I think I was there for 2 months before I was deploying over to Kuwait with 141 Infantry Battalion. And we're, thrust right in the middle of it. Come home from that, go to NTC, find out the wife's pregnant, and now I'm going back to Kuwait to get ready for the invasion of Iraq. And I was so unprepared. In fact, I was just kind of recollecting with my wife. I was afraid. I was scared to death. Like, here I am going to go over and be in an invasion with an infantry battalion. And remember talking to my father-in-law. I'd gone down to Wichita, Kansas for an oyster feed, and I was with my father-in-law and told him, Jim, this is a matter of how many. It's not about if someone's going to die; it's how many are going to die. It's an infantry unit, and he was a good listener, and I knew he was one guy I could share that with, that it wouldn't freak him out. He was he still is one of those solid guys that just listens. And I don't remember his response, but it was just kind of a nod of the head. And yeah. And so, yeah, it was, we were the right flank of the 3rd Infantry Division as they stormed up through Iraq. And we got up to the city of Samoa, and it was right there on the Euphrates. And we were preparing to go across the Euphrates. And I'm sharing this story because this is really one of those things that just kind of sets you down your path for your life. And we had a scout platoon that went out. They were looking for a good way to get across the Euphrates, and they got hit. The lead vehicle got hit with an RPG, and the guy stepped out of the palm trees and shot Jacob Butler, Sergeant Butler. He was another Kansan. we had that connection and had been pretty good buds. And I'm in the talk while this is going on, and the craziness of, getting medevac out there, getting the rest of that platoon out was nuts. And walk out of the talk, and the first thing I see is they're washing Sergeant Butler's blood out of his Humvee with water bottles, and it's an image that'll probably last my lifetime. I'll take it with me forever. But he gave it all, and anyways, we got across the Euphrates. We continued on. Our unit pulled route security from Al Hila to Diwania before we got down to Kuwait, and we were able to get home because of that time we spent in Kuwait and then NTC, and we were there getting ready, and I got pulled aside. They said, "Hey, Sergeant Funk, XO's got a message for you." And they said, my wife was pregnant before leaving, and they pulled me in, and, "Hey, we've got a Red Cross message here. Your wife just lost the baby." And so here I am, sitting there in the office on the phone by myself, talking to my wife while she's in the hospital, and just isolated and lonely. That's the feeling, but that's not what I knew at the time. I've been reading, I don't know if you're familiar with Brene Brown, but she's got this book called Dare to Lead. And it talks about, embracing our vulnerabilities, especially in the workplace. And I didn't have anybody to, tell me, it's okay to feel these feelings. I was told, be strong, our unit, the 141 Infantry Battalion, we were straight and stalwart, be a straight and stalwart soldier, and be strong there, Sergeant Funk, and get home and get off the plane. My dad's there. He's like, be strong for Emily. And so what does that mean? Be strong. Well, better be strong, better not show my emotions, be tough, drive on with the mission, which unbeknownst to me, that's kind of starting that spiral. I'm carrying the guilt of Sergeant Butler and now losing a son. And so next thing you know, I'm off active duty, and 3 months later, my reserve unit says, "Hey, back to Iraq." Oh, but wow. You got a choice here. You can let these orders, somebody else take these orders, and I'm like, how am I supposed to give those orders to somebody else and think about, what if something happened to him? I couldn't live with guilt anymore. And so I went on that deployment. At that point, we had a 3-month-old son, and just as I was leaving, found out the wife was pregnant again. So, and now we got, 2 little ones, and it's just like, but I'm in that spiral of deploying because that's how I'm massaging my guilt, and come home. We eventually moved to Charlottesville. I went to work for the National Ground Intelligence Center as a contractor on the Identity Intelligence Program. Great mission, was able to throw myself into it. But the one thing we didn't realize, picking and moving our family out halfway across the country, we had no community around us, no support for Emily and the boys as I was continuing to deploy. And so I was doing my job. She was raising these kids by herself, and it was just hard charging into it and kind of not really worrying about the pieces that I was leaving behind, unfortunately. And it was on my last deployment. I was in Kabul, Afghanistan, and that was probably one of the most transformational periods of my time. My wife said, "I can't do this anymore." Yeah, she sent me the Dear John letter while I was in Afghanistan. Wow. And you're happy deploying. I've got my life here with the boys. So at that point in time, and I still had 6 months left on that deployment, I was like, I got to figure out how my life's going to look going forward. And I was blessed being there in Kabul, great community. And the chaplain's office had been receiving these care packages that they would package up every Friday and give them to these nuns. They were part of the Mother Teresa order. And those nuns would come on the base, and we would fill their car with stuff, and they'd take it to this orphanage. And really that was the first time in my life that I was doing something more than just for me. I was doing it for other people. It was like really a sense of service that I got out of that experience. And so I really, my mind was churning, like, how am I going to transform my life? Be more of a servant, given to others. Been so focused on myself, building my career. And fortunately, through all that, I got home. The wife saw a new man, and we were able to reconcile. But we were still kind of searching for that community and what was next. And ended up taking a job back in Kansas City and leaving Charlottesville for a year. And we thought it'd be great to be with family, and it was. We really enjoyed being closer to family. But what we saw was the community that our families had built. And we weren't really a part of that. We were trying to insert ourselves, but it made us really realize more the community that we had left here in Charlottesville, Virginia. And we were watching our boys struggle through COVID. They were isolated, being at home. And the company I was working for at the time was a healthcare IT company. That's where I picked up the Scrum Master role. And they're like, we're all remote. You can work remote anywhere. So we packed up that U-Haul and came straight back to Charlottesville. Wow. And it was interesting because before that last deployment, we had heard about Living Free Together. A friend of mine had told me, like, this might be good for you. And but we weren't ready to hear that. My wife really was not ready to embrace anything military at the time, because it had been a hard life for her raising those 3 boys while I was constantly deploying. And so when we came back to Charlottesville, she was able to plug back into this networking group called Synapse, and they had partnered with Living Free Together. And so she went to this Living Free Synapse meeting, and the director, Tanya King, started talking about their mission, and Emily just broke into tears. Like, this was what we needed all along. And so she got involved, and they invited her to join the board of directors. And so we started participating. The programming they have for families is just great. It's such an organic thing that they do, where they just bring families and they teach them how to reconnect after these deployments, and teach them how to communicate and what's special about your family, and helping you identify those things that you kind of lose sometimes when you're on that constant cycle of leaving and coming and trying to figure out how to reinsert yourself. And thank goodness we had joined that group, because in 2023, it could have been much worse. I ended up getting laid off. Oracle had bought out that healthcare IT company that I was working for, and they did a big reduction in force. That was when a lot of tech layoffs were happening at the time. We were sending my oldest son to college, and my dad was in the last stages of his fight with colon cancer. He had colorectal cancer. And I think if I hadn't been a part of this Living Free Together, I would have probably spiraled again. And back to that version of that guy that my wife said I can't continue with, And so it was interesting, like right before my dad passed away in November, and we had our Ruck the Ridge. It's an annual event we do. And I'm a part of a workout group called F3, and got a bunch of my buddies to go do the Ruck the Ridge with me. And so I had committed to that. I knew my dad was kind of, doing poorly, and it was like, we need to get ready to get home. But I had to do this Ruck the Ridge with them because, I'd committed to it. And we bit off the 8-mile ruck. I hadn't even trained for it. Just, come on, I was Army. I can throw a pack on and go do 8 miles.
Easy.
Easy. And we did it. We were probably the last ones in, but we made it. And then I jumped in the car and drove back to Wichita, Kansas to be with my dad that last week before he passed. But every time I stopped for gas, the boys were like, "Dad, are you okay?" Well, yeah, I just did an 8-mile ruck. How do you think my legs are feeling, guys?
Ain't bad.
Yeah. But anyways, that was quite the experience to have finished that, got there, saw my dad. And then when he passed, it was like having this community, being a part of something like that, it gave me a new perspective. And that's, I guess, what I'm here to kind of talk to everybody about tonight is find those communities that you can be a part of. And, you know, they're there. And how I, started it with the unintentional, like, I'm not an Army, like a hoorah Army guy myself, really. Like I said, I didn't intend to join the Army. And so like places like the VFW, they mean well, and they're great organizations, but some of us, maybe aren't comfortable sitting in those VFWs or doing some of those activities. So an organization like Living Free, it really speaks to people like myself that, it doesn't always have to be the gung ho. Let's go, tell our war stories. It's more about connecting with your family, connecting with your community, and really understanding how there's a lot of good people out there that really want to help us.
Right.
Tanya, she's a pastor's wife and saw that need for community and support for military families here in this area. Charlottesville, Virginia, we don't have a military base. We're a couple of intel centers and there's a JAG school. And so we're really kind of disconnected once we leave work. And so this organization gives us that community, that time to come together, get to know other families that are going through the same thing that we are, understand our struggle, and that we can connect with. And it's been great. So I'm so thankful that that's become part of our lives.
That's outstanding. And like you said, finding that place where you have that community is something that a lot of our brothers and sisters have a hard time with when they get out. The VFW, like you said, is awesome. And they're trying to do a lot better things now. They're trying to do things where they bring in the younger generation and let them lead and let them start to mold it. So it's a generational change, generational shift. So it's not just the smoke-filled rooms and things like that. It's other events that are going on, but it's going to take time because it's been generations that got it to that point.
Right.
Speaking on where you were at Fort Riley, I was right down the street at 1st Brigade. I was in 1st Engineers when you were in 141. So my soldiers' barracks was right next to your soldiers' barracks in 141. It was like right across the street from each other at the same exact time. When you deployed the first time, I was already deployed when 9/11 happened with Big Red 1 and Task Force 234, I think it was at the time. Okay. And we came back. You guys went, I think, right after that. And we assumed gate guard, of course, at that time. And then we got sent to NTC to prepare to go to the desert we just came back from. And then while you guys went back for the 03 portion, we got sent to Korea to get ready to go to Iraq. It was a very weird time, but yeah.
Yeah, that's a roundabout way to get there.
Yeah. So when you were saying this, I was, oh, wow, he was there at the same exact time as me, like right down the block. My buddy was a supply guy in your unit. Tim Peterson was a supply dude over in 141. And then they moved up to other units within the brigade. But he was there for a long time. And obviously you were there for a while. My wife graduated K-State just like you. So
oh, nice.
A lot of connections here.
That's great. I love it. Yeah.
I was looking at the Living Free Together website earlier, and I seen the list of events just coming up in the next, I think, 4 months that are listed out there. There's tons of stuff going on for that organization. How big is your volunteer pool?
Well, it's really cool. So Tanya's a pastor's wife, this church, the Chestnut Grove Baptist Church, and so that's where we do a lot of our events. And it is non-denominational. We're not, pushing anybody to church or anything like that. It's just a community there that has really opened their doors to us. And they get a lot of volunteers from their church that come in and help. And one of the beautiful things that I love about it is we either do like programming on Mondays or Fridays now. We've been doing Fridays. And they have volunteers that come in and have dinner for us. And I love it because, when you're raising kids and you have one night where you don't have to worry about dinner, that is amazing. And so we'll come in and we'll all sit down and eat dinner together. And then we'll go into our programming. And Tanya's father, Benny, he's an amazing man, and he's usually got something really good cooked up for us. and so he's always got, a group of volunteers in the kitchen helping him get all the food ready, served, and cleaned up. And we're sitting in there doing our programming, and they've got, to-go containers for us to take for, lunch the next day. and it's all happening while we're going through there. And it's just an amazing, efficient group of people that just come in, and it's a labor of love. That's what I really love about it, is that they're giving so much of their time to us. And I can't ever express to them how much I appreciate it.
I can tell it helped you tremendously, obviously, and being now you're on the board, your wife's on the board as well, right? And
correct. Yeah.
So you're both deeply involved with it. The first sentence you see when you open the website is "Focus, Fearless, Fit," and I think that's a great the F cubed, I guess it's called. That's awesome to have that on there, and the pictures show you the rucking, I think climbing some kind of obstacle there, kids doing stuff. Food, I see the food right there in the middle. so
yeah,
a lot of stuff is going on. How do you guys manage all that?
Well, again, we have a good group of volunteers. We have a good sized board. I think there's 9 of us now, and we each have like a category that we kind of take on, and just a lot of good people doing good things, because like you said, we have a lot coming up, and we do it all year round too. Charlottesville, Virginia is a beautiful place. If you've not been here, I highly recommend visiting. We're right in, Central Virginia with the Blue Ridge, Shenandoah Mountains. And we have wineries and breweries galore, and we make use of those spaces. And during the summer, we'll have a picnic at the polo match, at the King Family Vineyard. And the owner's son he's a veteran himself, and has been so gracious to veterans. But it's really interesting how you do these things, and you keep finding, the veteran connections. But like I said, all throughout the year, we've come up with different things, and we keep adding little things. Like the book club that I'd mentioned was one of those things that we had added we kind of felt like it was maybe a way to just connect a little bit deeper with some of the people that had been coming regularly. And it has, it's been a really nice way to connect. And we'll probably find some Thursday evenings to meet at a fire pit at a brewery throughout the summer and fall to maybe continue on another book. That's just kind of how it's just like little ideas that we have here and there. A lot of it is programming for the children, though. We really want to do things to help those children. The military children are very special, so resilient. My boys, they kind of outgrown a lot of the programming, but they come and volunteer. We had a pickleball tournament last summer where my boys were out there, and my oldest son, it was kind of funny. He had gotten paired up with an 8-year-old girl, and he's like, "Dad, are you just trying to get me out of this tournament right off the bat?" He's so competitive. But he ended up working with that girl and coaching her up to the point where they went and won the whole thing.
Oh, wow.
And to me, I mean, that just talks about what this organization is about, that these kids take on what we're teaching, and they learn how to work together and be resilient and overcome. And that was just a perfect example of how that just plays down to them. And so, yeah, just really love the children that we are able to affect and have an impact on through this as well.
And looking at your strategies, it's a family enrichment, family partnership, and then fit mental wellness. How do all three of them, they can work together, obviously. Where do you get most of your, interaction with people? Is it the 2 family ones, or the fit mental wellness, or all 3 of them combined?
Well, the fit mental wellness is things that we do have, like separate events where we do that. Right now, we've been doing a wellness series where earlier in the year we were talking about how to stay healthy with just the things you have in your kitchen. We had a nurse practitioner come in and tell us about like herbal supplements that you can use, and to do like a steam rinse, when you're suffering through the throes of all that winter stuff. And so we did a few of those. My wife, she's a nutritional therapist, practitioner. So she was talking about nutritional benefits of staying healthy and keeping a good mind through nutrition. And lately we've got a series that's going on about loneliness, the deep loneliness and that people experience. And we have a nutritionist who is teaching about, nutrition and how that can help help your mental aspect as well. And then we do have Dr. Dan. He's a psychiatrist, and he's sorry, I should know a little bit more about it, but Dr. Dan will come in and he'll talk about some of the clinical side of it too. And so those are some of the separate events that we've done with that. But like even when we're doing our program and family programming, Dr. Dan will sometimes have classes there so that if somebody wants to go a little bit deeper on maybe some marriage counseling tips about how to, improve your marriage, they can go on that little sidebar instead of doing the book club with my wife and I. And so we always have offerings for different people. And Tanya does a great job of kind of understanding what people need in the moment. She always seems to have a good idea of some programming that she's going to add. And yeah.
And facing deep loneliness, the next meeting is Tuesday night, 6:30 to 8 p.m. Registration is required. If you go to the livingfreetogether.org website, there is a QR code. You can register there. I'm not sure if you have to go to the first one on the 13th to go to the 20th, but you can register there to maybe get to the next sessions.
Nope, you can come and join us at any point in time. There's really no order of things. We'd love to have anybody come and join us.
Awesome.
And it's free. It's free. It's all you're a veteran. You're a first responder, military member in uniform. It's free. We just need the registration to know what to plan for. But there's no cost to any of this, and that's really the great thing about it. Now the Ruck the Ridge, maybe we can segue into that. There is a registration fee if you're going to go do the Ruck. But if you need help, we definitely will help anybody that needs to help cover that cost. But you had mentioned seeing the pictures of the Ruck, and it's become a great event. We'll be doing our 4th year this November, and it's up at the Blue Ridge School. It's a beautiful spot, great trails. We have 8, 6 and 4 mile rucks. And then last year we did our first 1 mile all ability loop. Wow. And that was a really big hit. And so those are all, you have to register for those. And then, but if you just want to come out and join us for Ruck the Ridge, we have a Ruck Fest where they have children's events. They have a little ruck obstacle course for the kids to do. Like a little station where they can try on military gear. We have like rucksacks and Kevlars, nice. And sometimes the fire department comes out and they have their equipment that the kids can see and put hands on. Booz Allen was a sponsor last year, and they had a table. It was really cool to see them and sponsor it. And we are looking for sponsors. If anybody out there, you have a veteran-owned company and you want to come and sponsor anybody, really. We are always looking for people to sponsor, and then if depending on your level, you can have a table out there and represent and talk about your mission as well. And we have food trucks as well, so that it can be just a fun event for the family to come out. Dad does a ruck, the kids go play, mom gets a little bit of a break, and then we have a Veterans Day ceremony to recognize Veterans Day as well. Charlottesville is kind of an interesting area where there's not a lot of veterans activity. We have a really cool dogwood memorial, but they seem to do their memorial or veterans services on days that don't fall on the holiday. So we've kind of like wrapped our Veterans Day service to make sure that we have something that people can count on as far as having like a ceremony to recognize veteran service out there.
Outstanding. And Rucker Ridge looks like a fun time, and it looks like a beautiful area that it's held in. So don't like it's a killer hike, at least. So you can go with, like you said, all levels of hikers can go up there. I think you had 500 in the first 3 years of the event. That's a pretty good number for the first 3 years. And
yeah, and every year it's grown, and so we're really excited to have the opportunity to host something like that, but then also see all the people that come together, and then you have people like my wife and I. My wife showed up that first year just to kind of check it out, and then we've been volunteering with the Ruck. The boys and I, we were parking cars last year, and so I wasn't quite ready to take on the Ruck this year, but we were out there parking cars and moving bottles and setting up water stations, doing all that stuff, and then tearing down. And so a lot of great volunteer opportunities too for anybody that's in the area and wants to come help. We're always looking for volunteers as well.
Outstanding. Got a couple questions in the chat for you. This one is from Salty Wafer. What kept you coming back through 8 deployments? What was your driving force? Thanks, Salty Wafer.
Coming back home or going back over to deploy?
I think keep coming back through, I guess bouncing back and coming back to life and then returning to war, I guess. Yeah,
really having a mission that I, at the time when I was doing those deployments, I was really into. I was on the identity intelligence program, and so that was where, we were basically doing CSI out on the battlefield. We were training soldiers on how to collect evidence from IED events, and then we would bring that evidence back to those labs and identify, anything from fingerprints to DNA, and then that stuff would be ran through all the different FBI databases, and so we were identifying those bomb makers, and so it was a mission that I was really into. So after my second Iraq deployment in uniform, then I transitioned to contractor, and the rest of those deployments I did were as a contractor on the identity intelligence program.
Okay.
So yeah, that's kind of what kept me going. I did a lot of different missions. I was embedded with Special Forces on one of those deployments down in Kandahar. Spent a lot of time in Bagram, and my last deployment, and I was in Kabul, and I was supporting the embassy when we were doing the big special immigrant visa vetting at that time. And I was involved with that mission, being co-located there with the embassy. So it was a lot of really good work that I was just enjoying at the time. And like I said, it was something that kind of helped me deal with some of the guilt that I had from, the survivor guilt, basically, that I had been carrying with me from that first deployment in Iraq during the invasion. And so by going over there, deploying, doing that mission, saving people's lives, there was part of me that felt like, I was doing that for Sergeant Butler, keeping his memory alive, but also doing everything I could to continue to try to save the warfighter, keep the warfighter safe over there.
Definitely. It all comes together. So we got another one from Alley321. What does Rucker Ridge mean to you, and how can civilians get involved? Thank you, Alley321. I think you answered this a little bit while you were describing it, but you can go a little more in depth.
Well, to me, Rucker Ridge, it's really cool to see how rucking has become a big sport now. There's the Go Rucks. I did one of those Go Rucks with my brother-in-law. We were humping up and down Massanutten. That about broke me. But rucking is something that you do in the military. Like okay, you've done all your training, and well, throw a ruck on and get out there and go ruck. And, you know, that's just like training that you can do. If you're, you know, NCO in the military and you got some soldiers sitting around, throw a ruck on and go do some good training with them that way. And especially in the infantry. And so it's kind of been neat to see how that's really spread to the civilians. And it's something that you can do together. So as a civilian, you go and do a ruck, you're kind of showing your solidarity with the troops that do it on a daily basis, or, you know, they do it during their service. And so, you know, we hear a lot of times, you know, where people saying, thank you for your service. And that means, it does mean a lot when people take the time to say that. But when you actually go do something that a soldier does, and you show that you care enough to go try that and do it alongside of us, even if you were to like to come out and do the Ruck the Ridge and join me on that ruck, that means a lot, because you're saying you care enough to know what I did in my service and you want to try it. And so as a civilian, you want to come out and ruck with us, that's great. If you want to come and volunteer, like I said, we have a lot of volunteer opportunities. There's just so much going on during that day. That just to be involved as a volunteer is huge. And then, like I said, if you work for a company that's looking for a sponsorship opportunity and you want to, you know, encourage your company to sign up as a sponsor, and then come out there and table that event to talk about your company and how it, you know, maybe supports veterans, or how your mission ties into ours. That's always a big thing as well. So, so much that we can do together just to honor the sacrifice and service of military and first responders.
Outstanding. Great answers. Questions keep coming. We got two more in here right now. One is from Iron 116. Talks more about your past career. What's your biggest lesson from working in identity intelligence for 13 years? The biggest lesson you learned?
Wow. That's a tough question. You know, there was a lot of takeaways from that, especially early on, when it was something new and I was getting over there and able to train the troops on what it was we were doing, and then working alongside of them to identify the bad guys and try to get them captured or whatnot. Just that ability to see something that was cutting edge at the time when we started doing it over there, and so to be involved with something that was really impactful. But I think the one thing that I learned over the full 13 years is don't let your job become your identity. And pun intended. But I did. I really let that become who I was. And then later, when I started kind of having a bit of a crisis identity, you know, I saw those nuns come on base, and I'm working hard to keep people off base. And then here come these nuns and their habits, and they're telling me that they're praying for me. And it really kind of shook me, like, there's some good people out there, you know, that we're probably putting on the watch list that maybe they failed a CI screening or whatnot, and now they're on the watch list. And I started to struggle with it, and then I started to struggle with who I was, because it had been my identity working that mission for so long. So don't let your work become your identity. Look for stuff outside of there that you can get involved in, and make doing things for other people a big part of who you are, if you can.
All right, we got one from Liz Feet. Can you walk us through how living free together strengthens family and community bonds for veterans, and what makes your approach different than other veteran nonprofits? Thanks, Liz Feet.
You know, that's a great question, because I know there are a lot of great veteran organizations out there, and I'm not going to say that living free is better than another or has a better way of doing things. What it really is to me is that we're all doing something to support veterans. We're doing stuff to support first responders. And so we're just trying to do the job that needs to be done to connect these families, help them through hard times. And so I don't know. I feel like I was put on the spot there, but I'm going to dodge that one and say we're all doing it together. And it takes all of these different organizations that you see out there doing the work that needs to be done, because there are so many holes to fill. There are so many veterans, so many families out there that are struggling, and they need our help. And so if somebody else is thinking about standing up a nonprofit, I encourage you to do it. Because if you have an idea of how to help somebody, do it. I don't know if any of you guys have read or if it's been discussed on your platform here yet, but this book called The Women, and it's about a female nurse in Vietnam. And I need to grab it so I can tell you the author, Kristen Hanna. It's The Women. And my wife really encouraged me to read it, and phenomenal book, but it really follows this nurse through Vietnam, where she's like in a very being a nurse or any kind of medical care in a combat zone is just going to be a hellscape, to get through. And then the PTS that she experienced after coming home, and the fact that people didn't acknowledge that women were over there in Vietnam, especially in combat. And it really opened my eyes to just how there is women veterans to me kind of seem underserved. And we're doing a big part of trying to reach out to women veterans and supporting them and their families and helping them. And so the more we can do, the more organizations that are out there to support, the better it is for everybody.
Definitely. And I think with that, there are a ton right now of veteran focused organizations. If you can't find one that works for you, something has to be historically wrong in your area. But if you can't, and you think of an idea that you think is not out there, just research, make sure it's not been done, and then maybe start one in your area and help people in that niche, and probably join in with a larger organization to get a little piggyback and more attendance and more people to come to your events.
Amen. And thank you for giving us a voice. This is an awesome opportunity to be able to come on and talk. And I appreciate you having this platform that you're allowing us to share. And so I really do appreciate it, Rich.
Awesome. I appreciate having you on here, and glad we connected I think we connected via the Zone, right? So that thing actually works sometimes.
Yeah. And like a little plug for Booz Allen. So thankful my path brought me there, and wonderful company with a lot of really great people doing good things for military families and veterans as well. So yeah,
they definitely do. And they have so many, their hands are in so many things, and they still are able to say, hey, thanks to the veterans for the whole month of, I think it's all of May. They do the veteran identification, veteran salute to the veterans, and then of course Memorial Day as well. And they always take care of us as much as they possibly can.
Yep.
We got one more question in here from Denny Slam. I don't know if that's like Grand Slam breakfast, but how do you define resilience after 2 decades of war zone operations and public service, and now as a board member of Living Free Together? Thanks, Denny Slam.
Yeah, great question. And to me, it's just about picking yourself up, having a good perspective on things, and not giving up. I had mentioned how I'd gotten laid off when I was working for Oracle, and I could have taken that as it was a kick in the gut at that time. But I had a good perspective because I had a good community around me, and you can't do it on your own. And And so having that community to support me, keeping me going forward. Good friend of mine gave me a job that helped me land, back on my feet right after getting laid off, and was able to work that for a year until finding this job with Booz Allen. But just, having that community and a good perspective, to me, that's what resilience is about, is just rallying with those people that, are supporting you and helping you move forward. And at some point in time, it'll be your opportunity to help somebody else. And so don't forget that. Don't forget the times where you struggled and somebody helped you, so that you can pay that forward at some point in time too.
Outstanding. And what we say here on the MisFit Nation all the time is, if with each episode we reach one veteran or one first responder or one person, we're a success that day. So if one person gets or your message, hey, I'm going to go out to Living Free Together, and I'm going to join the Ruck the Ridge, I'm going to follow Derek, even if he's just parking cars, I'm going to make sure he makes me go ruck, and I'm going to push myself to do something I haven't done in a while, then we're successful tonight. And that's what it's all about, helping one person at a time so that they maybe can help one person at a time. And I think we've done that tonight. That's awesome. And I will be rucking this year. So if anybody wants to join me, I'll start a team, and you can sign up with me and be part of my team. Love to have anybody come out and join me. And push you along, push each other along. Yes. Rucking is one of those things that's best done with a bunch of people. It's much better when you have someone to talk to during it and laugh at you and laugh at each other during it. Definitely. As we start to wrap up there, we usually ask our guests a couple things. The first thing is, what's the best way to get in contact with you if they want to learn more about you or to have you on their show? And then, of course, I have the website Living Free Together in there already. Yeah, I'm out on all the social media platforms, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn. So love it if you wanted to connect with me on LinkedIn. If you just need a referral at some point in time too. But any of those, and email is always fine too. I think you've got my email, Rich, and if you want to share that afterwards, that's fine as well. Okay. Yeah. It's a pretty easy one. And the other thing we ask is, what's 3 things you have to do, you think the audience can start doing tomorrow to be better people? Be vulnerable. Allow yourself to show those emotions and ask for help. And read a book. I mentioned a couple of them while I was talking, but Brene Brown's Dare to Lead. It's been a really good book for me, kind of breaking down some of those walls that I put up around myself, that armor that I continue to carry after service, that you got to just let people see who you are and how you're feeling, because when you're trying to hide it, you're not helping anybody, and you don't know if that emotion that you might show in that moment might be something that person needs. So allow yourself some vulnerability in your life. Definitely. Thank you for both that. Every book that you mentioned, I shared in the chat. Hopefully I captured all of them and I got them in there. Some of the links were very long on Amazon, so I just told them to go to Amazon, search them. Because Amazon, for some reason, the link is almost a paragraph long. So I tried not to take up the whole chat with just that. But thank you again for taking your time tonight to hang out with us. This has been a great chat. If you ever want to come back on or have your founder come back on, send her our way, and we'll have her on here to talk more in depth about her journey to living free together as well. Oh, that'd be great. I appreciate that. Yeah. Misfit Nation, thanks for hanging out tonight. Like always, take care of each other, take care of your friends, and do everything you can to stay in the light tomorrow, because a day with you is much better than a day without you. Until Tuesday, when the Tuesday crew has Avon Cornelius on, we'll see you then. Be humble, stay hungry, and keep hustling.
Thanks for checking us out and being a part of the Misfit Nation Show. Don't forget to visit our website at themisfitnation.com. That's themisfitnation.com. Check out all our past episodes and get some of the great Misfit Nation gear for you and your family. As always, be humble, stay hungry, and keep hustling because we are
Misfit Nation. Misfit Nation.